welcome to Extra Point Taken. I'm Ben Solak, which is not typically the voice you hear at the top of this show. You usually hear Shokopadia, but Shil's not feeling too well. He's sick, so he's off today, getting healthy for the holidays. We wish him all the best. Nora, Princiotti, and Stephen Ruiz, the usual hosts of Dual Threat on the feed, very graciously hopped on to help me out. We have on Monday at 8 o'clock, Niners-Ravens, which I don't know about you guys. To me, this is the regular season game I've been most excited for like all year.
It's all I want. Agree. It's all I want to see this weekend. I don't even want to see my family. I just want to see the game.
Ravens Niners is worthy of Christmas. I don't know if Tommy DeVito is worthy of Christmas, but Ravens Niners is worthy of Christmas.
Here's what I think we're going to get Niners Ravens, and this is just particularly designed to ruin Steven's life. Ravens defense dominates for 3.5 quarters, right? We're just talking like Purdy's head is in a blender. Kyle Shanahan's screaming on the sidelines. He's missing throws. Ravens are up like 14-3, 17-3. It's like a nice, they're putting together long running drives, eating the clock. And then with like 8 minutes left, Purdy engineers like back-to-back beautiful statement drives. True MVP winning, award winning. He's the greatest quarterback ever drives that are mostly just like Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel making great plays. But that's how they get framed. And Steven has to hop on the pod and be like, after Purdy beats the Ravens, saves the Niners, like, oh, the Niners are the best regular season team, embarrasses Mike McDonald. Steven has to come on the pod and be like, actually, no, he's still bad. And then has to deal with the what's it, backlash? I was thinking lashback. The backlash of that for like weeks on end. That to me is my optimal Niners Ravens game. Steven, hey, any interest in that?
No, not at all. And I'm already thinking about like what my argument would be. I'd be like, okay, why were they still in the game? Why was he, if he had such a bad first 3 quarters, how is he still in the game and able to engineer these comebacks or these drives? So that would be my response. But no, I think that's very much on the table. I'm not going to sit here and act like I think the Ravens are going to dominate Brock Purdy and like he's going to get exposed or something. Mm-hmm. I think he's been playing well. And I think the argument like people that like me have been making is that the people around him, the supporting cast, the play calling, and all that has just kind of propped him up a little bit. And people are embellishing his strengths. That's all I'll say about him. I don't think that's going to get exposed anytime soon because he still has those things around him.
Steve, in the universe in which the Ravens have a good day against the Niners offense, like win or lose, if we walk away from that game being like, okay, the Niners were dropping 30 on Cats and they only had like 17 in this game. They had like a mid game. What do you think it is that Mike McDonald did, right? If you're sitting here on Friday prognosticating, I tell you, hey, on Monday, Ravens have the best defensive performance. We've seen this Purdy, Christian McCaffrey era of the Niners, like 20 games at this point. Nobody's really like fully gotten them without some injuries on the back end, and the Niners don't have that right now. What is it you think that Mike McDaniel will have done?
I think it's the same conversation we were having after they played the Bengals in the wild card game last year, or when they've given the Bengals troubles anytime. And I think those are two different offenses. Cincinnati's offense and San Francisco's offense, but the way you have to kind of disrupt them is similar, and that's changing the picture after the snap, presenting one thing before the ball is snapped and showing them another thing after the ball is snapped. And like, it's impossible to find a split where Purdy looks bad. Trust me, I've tried. That's all I do. I stay up at night until 3 a.m. trying to expose. No, I'm joking.
I did wake up to a text from Steven one morning this week that was like, yo, you need to look at these tight window stats. And I was like, Steve, go to bed, dude. Sleep. Go to bed.
But anyway, like the one stat where he kind of struggles is when teams change the picture on him, when they go from 2 high safeties before the snap to 1 high safety after. And when they play zone, when they play cover 3, because if they play cover 1, it doesn't matter if his eyes are in the wrong spot because he has a matchup anywhere. If they're playing man coverage across the board, he's going to find a matchup. But if it's zone, then it doesn't really work like that. And that's when he's kind of made his mistakes. That's when he's thrown into coverage. And the Ravens just so happen to be the best team in the NFL at doing that. And that's by the numbers, by EPA.
Mm-hmm. This is a pro Mike Nora. McDonald podcast. I want to make that very clear. But if that happens, if the Ravens defense ends up limiting the Niners in a way that we haven't really seen this season, do you think we come out of it talking about the game plan, talking about the scheme, talking about the coordinator? Or do you think we come out of it going, Kyle Hamilton, Roquan, Patrick Queen, middle of the field defense for this Ravens team is something else?
Point. That's a good point. Because I think Kyle's going to be a big part of it.
The answer can be both.
Kyle Hamilton. Yeah, I think it will be both.
I think it's always 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I remember when the Dolphins played the Niners last year, right? And when we were like, no one has slowed down this Dolphins offense. Like, this is crazy. And then it was like, all right, well, they worked the middle of the field so well, and the Niners have Fred Warner. Like, the Niners can be able to do something that they might be able to stop them in a way that no other defense really could. And then they had a great game against them. Fred played awesome. We were like, all right, took away the middle of the field. They were taking away all the timing routes, but they have Fred, right? And then the next week, the Chargers went out there and put out the same game plan with no Fred and had success, right? And so while I do think that, like, if the Ravens are successful, Kyle Hamilton's going to be an enormous part of it. Roquan's going to be an enormous part of it. There still is value to showing to the other 30 teams in the league, hey, like, this is how you would do it if you had the guys that we have. You might need to figure out a different way to do it, but this is what it would look like. And you, like, I'm trying to avoid using the word blueprint because blueprint drives me nuts. But it starts to establish, like, okay, if you can take away X and Y and Z falls away, then you force them into, like, playing this sort of game. You force them into being a check down team. You force them into being like a go ball on the outside team. You kind of just make the Niners be a little bit of a square peg in a round hole. That's what you can show if you have a good defensive performance, even if you don't have, like, the personnel for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think McDonald is so good that his game plans kind of stick out beyond the talent he has. Like, they'll do, like, the Bengals game last year, I can't get out of my head. Like, they changed the techniques and how they play coverage so much that, like, you could see it. And I think a lot of people will be pointing this stuff out and, like, pointing out how they disrupted the 49ers offense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think the fact that it's an island game is really going to help. Like, that 49ers Dolphins game was at 4:00 and not everybody watched it. Most people watched it, but maybe half the country didn't. I think in this case, the whole country is going to be tuned in and see it. And it's going to be something they talk about. I think Mike McDonald's been one of the better assistant coaches in the NFL. I think he's going to be one of the top head coaching candidates in the offseason. And I think whoever's broadcasting that game is going to spend some time on that. So I do think he's going to get his proper credit.
Yeah.
If it happens. I don't know if it's, I don't think it's going to happen, but if it happens.
Nora, other side of the ball, Baltimore Ravens are holding it. 49ers defense defending it. Niners are big, rush with 4 team. The Ravens are big. If you rush with 4, we're going to let Lamar hang around back here for about 9-10 minutes. He's going to have a cup of coffee. He's going to dance around a little bit. 30-yard throw to Isaiah Likely. This is the sort of defense that I look at Lamar typically being really successful against, especially because when you get just like light boxes, or we're going to play too high, the Ravens say, okay, we're just going to run it. And we have the ultimate math adjuster. You think the Ravens can keep pace with the Niners? And if this becomes a high scoring affair, if the Niners are dropping 30, 35 on them the way they've been doing, you think the Niners, the Ravens can keep pace with that?
So I think we'll get to the picks part later. In my heart of hearts, I'm a little, I don't know if I'd quite go there, but the thing that I am hoping for is that this is a real Lamar completely on one game. And the thing that I'm curious about if that happens is how much it's going to involve him running the ball. He's averaging 53 rushing yards per game, which is the lowest since his rookie year by more than 10 yards per game. But this 49ers defense, as you've said, that's not really what they typically sell out to stop. And they gave up 50 yards on the ground to Kyler Murray last week. Lamar's a more threatening player in that mode than Kyler. And so I'm really curious, even though I've liked the elements of this Ravens offense that have involved Lamar running with the ball a little bit less, scrambling to throw maybe a little bit more, and just emphasizing the passing game. I'm curious if this ends up being a game where he just says, like, screw it. This is vintage Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
He's using his legs. He's doing everything. And I think that's the world in which, 1, we get an awesome game. It's Christmas night. Everyone's dialed in. And 2, where they can really keep pace with this 49ers offense, which, heart of hearts, I probably trust a little bit more to score a whole bunch of points. But if the Ravens do it, it's because Lamar has an absolute statement game.
Yeah, I think especially with Keaton Mitchell going down, right? So now they're down Mark Andrews, they're down
Hate
Keaton
it.
Mitchell.
Hate it.
Mitchell, it blows. And like Mitchell wasn't a big name and like, oh, he's RB3, but he was an important player for them because he was like a walking explosive play, right? He was like, okay, we're going to do this little gimmicky play action, little bubble thing. And we're going to pick up 13 yards. That's such a handy player to have. And they lose him. And then Ronnie Stanley has been kind of in and out of the lineup. And so now you're dealing with, okay, we lost a back. And then we also lost a tackle and a pass protector, and we're going up against this front. And it's like, okay, well, Keaton was your get rid of the ball quick guy. Ronnie was your blindside protector, erase Chase Young guy. They're both handy dudes to have when you face this Niners defensive line. Yeah, this isn't a Lamar Atlas game for sure. It's like the whole world is on your back in this one. I do think that, like, as important as Lamar is when he's holding the ball, the threat of Lamar is important because this would be an awesome game to just be able to give the ball to Gus Edwards 20 times. And just be able to say, we are going every drive we have, we are going to sit on this thing. We are going to take at least 5 minutes. And like that makes your margin smaller. You got to go get 7 when you're down there. But this is not a good run defense for the Niners, right? They're a bottom 8 run defense by success rate, by EPA per drive. They have been all season. Like no one can actually punish this because you can't stay in a good game script long enough to actually be able to run the ball. But with Lamar adding that extra number, if I'm Baltimore, I'm like, listen, of course I want to be throwing like 50 yards and like every Lamar MVP moment, like incredible plays. But I also kind of want to just let the Niners only have 8 drives this game. And so sitting on this thing, and they're well equipped to do that, can like probably help out. You did say, yeah, Nora, we're going to get to picks here. I am curious. This is a 5.5 point line, right? Is where we got to. The Niners are at home. Like Steven said, it's an island game. This is on Christmas night. The Niners are pretty substantial favorites. They've taken money pretty much all week as well. Steve, Nora, I'll start with you, Nora. Who do you think wins this? How much do you think they win it by?
I think the 49ers win it. I think they win it by, I guess I'm voting for the best possible game here. I suppose they could win it by 7 if it's a last minute touchdown.
Yeah, you got a little 27-20. What's the final score?
Yeah, I like it. 27-20 feels good to me.
Steven, where are you at?
I'm gonna pick the Ravens.
Yep.
I'm gonna
go jaw up off the floor.
That's right. I'm gonna go 21-17. I think it's a Mike McDonald game. I think Lamar looks good within the context of his environment. I think he is the clear MVP after this. Maybe this is Cope. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. I'm picking the Ravens. I think they're going to win the game.
Yeah. I would love for that to happen. If that happens, I think we have some really interesting conversations across the board. I also think it would be very handy for that to happen because right now when people ask me like, hey, Niners, how do they get stopped in the NFC? How do they not make the Super Bowl? I'm like, well, if Dak has his best game ever, right? If the Eagles run the ball for 400 times, like right now, like it's very hard to lay it out. And I think that the easiest way to lay it out would be to actually see it. Like I got to see someone do something here against this offense.
I don't care what happens on Monday night. They're making the Super Bowl regardless. The Ravens have nothing to do with that in my mind. They're making the Super Bowl.
I would love a Super Bowl preview right here. This would be a very fun game, especially because I think if we're banking on the young man Mike McDonald to stop this offense, I would like for him to get 2 cracks at it. And so it'd be handy if he could get a look here, get surprised by some stuff, lose some stuff, and then circle back in February and have a little bit of experience dealing with this offense. I think the Niners win it. I do think it is lower scoring than people expect. I think it's like a 26-17, 27-17 sort of a thing. I think that you're going to see this game slow down. I think you see a lot of running of the football.